Hello everyone and welcome back to ESOL with Lizzy. Today we are going to talk about the present continuous tense in the positive, negative and question form. This video is perfect for Entry 1 ESOL learners and above. In English, we use the present continuous tense to talk about things that are happening right now. For example, I am going shopping. This means that right now I am going shopping. Not 5 minutes ago, not 5 minutes in the future, but right now. We are singing a song. Again, this means right now we are singing a song. Not 5 minutes ago, not 5 minutes in the future, but right now. Right now, I, Lizzy, I am speaking. I am teaching the present continuous tense. You are listening. And you are watching a YouTube video. Can you see the words in red, orange, green and blue? The first 4 words in every present continuous tense sentence are the most important. First, we need a subject, which is in red. In this sentence, it is we, but you can see that in the other sentences, this can be I or you. It could even be he, she, it, they, or someone's name. Then we need the verb to be, which is in orange. Here it is are, but depending on the subject, it could also be am or is. Then we need a root verb, which is in green, like sing, go, listen, speak, or teach. So this word is the action or movement in a sentence, and we shouldn't have anything extra on the end of the verb, like s or ed. Just the simple root verb. It's the shortest form of the verb. And then we need to add ing to the verb, which is in blue. For example, singing, going, listening, speaking, or teaching. Now, don't worry if all of that doesn't quite make sense yet. Let's go through this in a bit more detail. So firstly, let's have a look at the verb to be. This verb is in every present continuous tense sentence, so it's very important. Do you know the verb to be? Firstly, we need our subjects. Subjects come at the start of a sentence and are usually one of these words: I, you, he, she, it. One name, for example, Hamza. One thing, for example, the table. We, they, or 2 names, for example, Hamza and Fatima. So, if my subject is I, what is my verb to be? It's am. If my subject is you, are. If my subject is he, is. This is the same for she, he, it, one name and one thing. She is, it is, Hamza is, the table is. What if my subject is we? Are. They? are. And two names like Hamza and Fatima, are. So with that in mind, let's look at our present continuous sentences structure. Firstly, we need to start our sentence with a subject. For example, one of these words, either I, you, he, she, it, one name, one thing, we, they, or two names. Then we need the verb to be, which is either am, is, or are, depending on our subject. Then we need a root verb. For example, eat, walk, watch, listen, read, and talk. A verb is the movement or action in a sentence. For example, think about eat. You have to use your mouth and your hands to eat. Without this, eating our lunch would be quite difficult. Therefore, it's a verb. We call it a root verb because we don't need anything extra on the end of the verb. It is not eats, not walked, just eat, just walk. It is the most simple form of the verb. There are many more verbs than there are in this list. These are just some examples. And then we just need to add ing onto the end of the verb. So, if we pick a word from each list, we will have a present continuous tense sentence. For example, I am talking. We can also add any extra information to the end of our sentences after ing to make them more interesting and to add more information. For example, I am talking to my friend. So, for example, if we want to make present continuous tense sentences with the root verb listen, firstly, we mustn't forget the four things that form the present continuous tense. First, we need a subject, then the verb to be, then a root verb, and then ing. If the subject is I, how could we make a present continuous sentence with the root verb listen? We would say, I am listening. Our subject is I, am is the verb to be, listen is the root verb, and then we add ing. 1, 2, 3, 4. If the subject is you, we would say, you are listening. You is the subject, are is the verb to be, listen is the root verb, and then we add ing. 1, 2, 3, 4. If the subject is she, we would say she is listening. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the same for subjects he, it, one name and one thing. She is listening, it is listening, Hamza is listening, the cat is listening. If the subject is we would say we are listening. 1, 2, 3, 4. If the subject is they, we would say they are listening. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is the same for two names. Hamza and Fatima are listening. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's test our knowledge. I'm going to show you some sentences, and I want you to think about whether the present continuous tense in these sentences is correct or incorrect. I walking to work. Is that correct? Have we got our 4 things? Have we got a subject, the verb to be, a root verb and ing? No, the verb to be is missing. So the correct answer is I am walking to work. She are listening to music. What do you think? We have a subject, she. We have a verb to be, are. We have a root verb, listen. And we have ing. But is the verb to be correct? No, it should be she is listening to music. You are eat lunch. Is anything missing? You is our subject, are is the correct verb to be, eat is the root verb, but ing is missing. It should be you are eating lunch. Talk to my friend. Is this sentence correct? No, there is a lot missing here. We don't have a subject, the verb to be, or ing. We only have a root verb, talk. So it should be, I am talking to my friend. Really well done, everyone. Before we move on, here's a tip to make your English more fluent. In the present continuous tense, we can also use contractions. Do you know the word contraction? A contraction is when 2 words are pushed together to make one smaller word with the same meaning. For example, the words do and not can be pushed together to make don't. Both do not and don't have the same meaning. So, how can we add contractions to the sentences that we corrected earlier? I am walking to work. We could push I and am together to make I'm walking to work. Both of these sentences have the same meaning. She is listening to music. We could push she and is together to make she's listening to music. You are eating lunch. We could push you and are together to make you're eating lunch. I am talking to my friend. What do you think about this one? Again, we could push I and am together to make I'm talking to my friend. Remember, these contractions don't change the meaning, they just change the spelling and the fluency. So, I have one last question about these sentences. Are these sentences positive or negative? They are positive sentences. So, let's think about how we can make them negative. In English, this is really easy. All we need to do is add the word not to our sentences between the verb to be and the root verb. This makes the form of the sentences subject plus verb to be plus not plus root verb plus ing. For example, I am listening to music. This is a positive sentence. to make it negative, we would say, I am not listening to music. We have just added the word not between the verb to be, am, and the root verb, listen. Here's another example. She is talking. How can we make this sentence negative? We need to add not between is, the verb to be, and talk, the root verb. She is not talking. Easy, right? So let's check our understanding of this. I'm going to show you some positive present continuous tense sentences, and I'd like you to help me make them negative. I am walking to work. What do you think? How can we make this negative? I am not walking to work. She is listening to music. What about this one? She is not listening to music. You are eating lunch. This one becomes, you are not eating lunch. I am talking to my friend in the negative form is I am not talking to my friend. Could we add any contractions to these negative sentences to improve our fluency? In the first sentence, we could push I and am together to make I'm not walking to work. In the second sentence, we have two choices. We could push she and is together to make she's not listening to music, or we could push is and not together to make she isn't listening to music. We can only choose one of these options. We also have two choices in the third sentence. We could push you and are together to make you're not eating lunch, or we could push are and not together to make you aren't eating lunch. Again though, we can only choose one of these options. We can't say you aren't eating lunch, for example. In the fourth sentence, we only have one option. Like in number 1, we can push I and am together to make I'm not talking to my friend. In English, we never push am and not together to make amn't. That isn't an English word. The last thing I want to talk to you about is how to make questions using the present continuous tense. And just like the negative form of this tense, the question form is really easy. So, as we've already learnt, to make sentences in the present continuous tense, we need a subject, the verb to be, a root verb, and ing. This makes sentences like, she is cooking food, we are learning in college. To make questions in the present continuous tense, all we need to do is swap the subject and the verb to be around and add a question mark at the end. This means the form becomes verb to be, then subject, then root verb, then ing, and a question mark at the end. For example, is she cooking food? Here, she and is have swapped around. And are we learning in college? Here, we and are have been swapped around. And that's it. So let's have a look at our sentences again. And this time, I would like you to think about how we could make them into questions. I am walking to work. What do you think? How could we make this into a question? All we do is swap the subject and the verb to be around and add a question mark at the end. Am I walking to work? She is listening to music. This becomes, is she listening to music? You are eating lunch. What about this one? This one becomes, are you eating lunch? And finally, I am talking to my friend becomes, am I talking to my friend? To make all of these questions, all we have done is swapped the subject and verb to be around. Oh, and don't forget about your question marks. And that's it. That's the present continuous tense. Thank you so much everyone for taking the time to watch my video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll reply to them as soon as I can. See you soon everyone.